Hello, hello, hello. I'm glad you're here. I'm also glad I'm here. It's good to see you, to know you're there listening. Um, Thanks for your time. Usually we talk about infertility and the myriad of concerns, issues, questions um, around that topic. And on each episode, we pick something about infertility um, and discuss it. From my perspective, I speak from someone who's been through infertility. I speak as someone um, who understands, to some measure, the clinical and the medical side of it, the health-related side of it. I speak as a person of faith, knowing that God has made certain promises in His Word, and as a believer, holding on to that word and trusting that despite everything, He will come through. So we wear different hats here. We're open, we're flexible, welcoming to the diversity of the people that are affected by infertility, because this is something that, in terms of statistics, so a few decades ago, it was 1 in 10 people that were, affected by infertility, but that number seems to be rising. So it's important that we talk about this and that we address it. And that's what I'm talking about today, the importance of talking about infertility, or just, raising awareness about it and basically destigmatizing it. As somebody who went through infertility, I do know that there's still a lot of stigma attached to it. It varies from one part of the world to the other. It seems to be less in the West, and perhaps more obvious in more traditional non-Western societies, many parts of Africa and Asia. But it's still there. There's still a bit of, even if it's not stigma, there's a bit of, maybe shame is the word. Maybe secrecy is a word. But to make everything, a bit more neutral, silence. There's been a lot of silence around infertility, and people just don't talk about it. It's increased slowly but surely, and then there's kind of like a boom where on social media you have people talking about their experiences with infertility, with miscarriages, with surrogacy, with assisted conception. Um, and as with many things that are kind of coming out of the shadows, this also is something where people can then say, look, people like me who ordinarily would never have done this will come out and say, look, I went through this. This is what happened to me. And because I'm a human, most likely it's happening to somebody else. And these are my learnings. And hopefully my experience and my learnings from my experience can then help another person in a similar situation. And that's why we're here. So I do think it's important to raise awareness. It's important to talk about what you wouldn't ordinarily talk about. It's important to express yourself, whether as someone who is going through the journey or as someone who has a loved one who's going through the journey, a family member, a friend. Yeah, let's remove the stigma, the silence. Let's name it. Once something is named, it's easier to address it. Once something is out of the shadows, it's easier, to resolve it once the light is shining on it. From my own perspective and what I went through, I do know that I had many people around me who, yeah, there's some sort of fear, there's this fear that people have on broaching the topic, because they don't know how, as someone going through infertility, an external party isn't going through it, or maybe they're concerned for you, or they're just curious, or whatever it is. They may just want to talk about it, but they don't know how to broach the topic. They don't know what to say. One side of that is that sometimes people end up saying purely ridiculous things. Some people are mean. Some people are just maybe thoughtless, just make thoughtless comments. And there's a lot of that out there that I've seen. They say things like, I don't know, sometimes they ask ridiculous questions, and because it's something that can also be potentially really private, it's like, why would you ask me questions in the first place? And then why would you ask me a ridiculous question? I got the most ridiculous statements that I used to get, or question, if it can be elevated to be a question, is, but aren't you a doctor? And it left me really confused. Like, what does a doctor have to do with being infertile or getting pregnant or staying, and staying pregnant? It happens in other fields. It's like if a doctor falls ill, or a healthcare professional is like, but aren't you a pharmacist? Like, it's bewildering. That's just my own context. It's one of the things I got a lot of, and it was just plain. Clearly, I'm still confused by it, but you know, and there are things. So people would ask you questions like, "But haven't you been married for X number of years?" Or do you guys do it? You could just be something that's intrusive or silly. Um, and what I would like to say around that is basically, there's two things. One is, some people, the average person, I would like to believe, means well. Sometimes they're just awkward about it, or weird about it, or unintentionally rude. And so, for someone going through infertility, I would like to encourage you to just maybe be a little bit more patient with the others. It might seem unfair to ask that, but it's just a statement of fact, and that's really because it's better for you. And on the flip side would be for those who are curious or have statements to make. Sometimes silence is better. If you have nothing good to say, don't say anything. If your relationship with the person that's going through infertility isn't strong enough or isn't appropriate, don't ask questions, don't ask ridiculous questions. And also, if you are somebody who is a loved one, because one thing I experienced, I don't know how common this is, but I would presume it is pretty common. I had people who felt for me, they were concerned for me, but didn't say anything until I had my baby. And then, like, the collective relief was like, wow, finally, I never wanted to say anything. Or I asked this person, I talked about it with this person, but they never said anything to me. They never asked me anything or whatever. But they're in their hearts, they were hoping with me, or, what have you. And to those group of people, I would say, if you do have good intentions, if you are worried for somebody in your environment, you should speak up. You should be polite about it, be intentional about it, be kind. Don't be pushy or what have you. But it generally does help to know that somebody cares. And this applies to anything in life, but because we're talking about this topic, it really does apply here. Like, you mean this person even noticed that, maybe I was trying to start a family and I wasn't able to. Maybe this person even noticed that, okay, maybe I've been in and out of hospital and, asked about it. It goes a long way. And so, at the risk of rambling, which is the joy of having a podcast, we're talking here. What I'm trying to say is, if you have good intentions generally and you have a loved one who you think is going through this, it's okay to speak respectfully and kindly, and let the person know you're there, you're thinking of them, you're praying for them, you're wishing them the best. If your relationship would, maybe it's in the workspace, or maybe it's not appropriate, you're not close, just send the person good wishes. But please don't ask intrusive questions, don't make ridiculous comments. It makes it unnecessarily harder. And then for the person going through infertility, whatever your context may be, whatever your journey might be like, I would like to encourage you to know that there are people around you who wish you the very best. There's this person speaking to you right now who doesn't know you personally, but just because I've gone through this, I know it's important to hear it. You are important. You have people around you that do care for you. You do have people that may have spoken negatively or inappropriately, but they do mean well. You may have a few haters, ignore them, but keep your peace and be encouraged to know that you're most likely not alone. And you're definitely not alone because you're here. You're here with me and we're here together. Um, and I think that's it for today's discussion. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch up on the next episode.